Hi, my name is Jonathan. Welcome back to the channel, and in this video we are going to be looking at this, the Victorinox Huntsman. This, in my view, is the best Victorinox knife you can buy right now for the outdoor user.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The Victorinox Huntsman is a 91mm length knife, which in my view is the perfect size when you are trying to get a compromise between weight and practicality. This is to carry with you on a hike, say, or when you're camping, and it will probably end up in a backpack. So the size and weight is not quite as significant as it is for an everyday carry knife. So for me, a 4-layer knife is a great balance between practicality and overall size and weight. I think if you get above 4 layers, it's starting to get a little bit cumbersome, not only in terms of size and weight, but also in terms of being able to use it. So I think the 4-layer for this sort of application is perfect. In terms of the width, we're looking at about 20 mil or 3/4 of an inch. The weight is 98 grams, which is 3.5 ounces, and as we mentioned, it is a 4-layer. In terms of the tool set, let's have a look at that. We've got the main blade. So the blade is a drop point blade. The steel is not particularly special, but it does hold an edge quite well, and it does sharpen quite well, and it does come pretty sharp out of the box. It's 2.54 inches in length, non-lock-in, so it's suitable for UK carry. Also in here we have the scissors. I am a massive fan of scissors on a Victorinox. This is one of the reasons I've selected this knife, because I find it really hard if the scissors are not there, and these are very sharp and big enough to be really practical. A knife doesn't do everything. If you're cutting cord close in or snipping threads, or you want to cut into a bandage strip or cut in a precision way, then the scissors more often beat the knife for that sort of application. So I'm always a massive fan of the scissors, and often find I use scissors more than the knife. One really good use for the scissors, where a knife doesn't really cut it, so to speak, is for cutting fingernails. This really does a great job of cutting fingernails, so that is another really practical reason to carry the scissors. There's also the 2 traditional blades you find on most Victorinox knives, and on this side you have a can opener, and that is quite a sharp blade and does a really good job of opening cans. It can also be used to hold a pot which might be on a fire by the wire handle, so I've seen it used for that before. It's also got a 3 or 4mm flathead screwdriver blade there, and that also works as a Phillips screwdriver, so quite a practical combination tool there. On this side we have a flathead. This slip joint works really well. You can hear how it holds into place. This can also be a pry tool. It's a pretty heavy duty screwdriver. It's also got a cap lifter and a wire stripper on there, and this one fixes in position at the halfway point, so you can use it to get some additional leverage if you're using it as a pry tool, or if you're using it as a screwdriver. So that is a very practical, useful tool. In addition, we also have a small blade. Now, some people wonder why you would need 2 blades, and people use it in different ways. Some people use it for fine work because it's a little bit easier to control. Some people use it for general use, opening packaging and general use, and keep the main blade for more heavy duty tasks. And some people don't touch it at all unless it's really needed, on the basis that if it's not used much, it's kind of saved for emergencies and stays super razor sharp. It's different things to different people, but it's great to have a backup blade. And this one being smaller, it's another drop point. It's 1.5 inches long. It's easy to control if you are doing finer tasks with it. Also, we have in here probably the reason why this is most suitable for the outdoor user, and that is the saw. The Victorinox saws are well known for being very capable, and this is used mainly for cutting up bits of wood to use as kindling when you start a fire. This can cut through wood really easily, even quite thick. You could get through a 2-inch piece of wood if you wanted to with this, but it's probably more suited to maybe inch diameter type pieces of wood. Chop them into little pieces for when you are starting a fire. Having a wood saw is one of the tools that I would say is essential for an outdoor user. And those are the main blades on this side of the knife. If we look to the back of the knife, we have 3 tools. We have the corkscrew. Now, I know what you're thinking, who's going to have a bottle of wine with them when they are hiking? Well, if you're camping, you might. If you're hiking, probably less so. But there are other reasons to have a corkscrew. Things like if you are trying to undo knots in, say, paracord, the corkscrew is a really good way of being able to pull the knot open when you are struggling with a really tight knot with your fingernail. So a lot of people use it for that. In addition, you can put a knot in paracord and wrap it round there and use it to pull on that. It can also be used as a drill in soft wood. And also just underneath the corkscrew there, you will find a pin. Now a pin can come in for all sorts of uses, and it's just really nice to have a pin hidden away in there. Now strangely with the Huntsman, the pin is not included, so you have to find your own pin. If you buy the compact, it does include the pin in the same place. So it's useful to know that that is an option for carrying a pin. In addition, we have the Parcel hook. This is probably the most unloved tool on a Victorinox knife, but it actually can be quite useful. If you're trying to twist wires together, it's great for that. Its main use is, hence the name Parcel hook, is for carrying parcels which are wrapped with string. If you're trying to pick up a parcel wrapped in string, then you can cut into your fingers, and this allows you to carry it without it doing that. It can also be used if you are on a bike to lift an oily chain back onto a sprocket without getting your fingers oily. You can lift carrier bags. And one of the things I use it for is for pulling shoelaces tight in the tongue area of the shoe, where you can't always get your fingers in. You can hook that around your shoelace and pull it tight. So it does have some uses, although I think it really harks back to a different age. Then we also have an awl. The awl here is genuinely useful. It's sharp. It's got an edge on it, which is also quite sharp, so it can be used for scraping. And you'll notice it's got a hole in it, so it can be used for repairing and sewing. So it's a kind of rough sewing aid, and there are videos online showing how this can be used to sew things together, to pull a cord through fabric, to mend fabrics, and so on. So it is actually really useful. It can also be used to drill a hole. It's a really functional tool. It can also be used with a ferro rod as a striker. It's really good for that because of the sharp edge. So I really like the awl, and out of all the tools on the back, it's probably the most useful of the lot. Then we have a couple of tools in the scales. We have tweezers here, which are quite useful to get out splinters and things like that. So they have genuine use tucked away in there. And also the toothpick. This is probably the least useful tool that Victorinox do, in my view. I'm never that desperate for a toothpick. It seems to be a little bit of a waste of an opportunity, but I'm not alone in that thinking. And as I've shown before in the review of the compact knife, which I will link to at the end of this video if you wanted to watch that, you can buy this ferro rod and replace the toothpick, which is something that is much more practical, particularly in this knife, which is really suitable for outdoors. I'd much rather have a ferro rod in here than a toothpick. And what can you do with that? Well, you can start a fire. The tool I most like to use for that is this one. Because the ferro rod is really small, you can use the wire stripper. And the way you do that is you hold it like that, and that's a great way to start a fire. So in my view, this is a really practical replacement for the toothpick. And I'll link to the website where you can buy this. The same company that produced the Ferro rod also produce this. And this is Tinder in the form of a corkscrew. And the reason for that is you can store it in there. So all of a sudden you've got some Tinder with you and a ferro rod. So now this knife is a fire starter, which is brilliant. As an outdoor knife, to have the capability to start a fire when you might have no other means of starting a fire is brilliant, because the great thing about a ferro rod is that it's extremely reliable. So even if it gets damp or wet, it's not battery powered, it's not got gas you can lose, it's not got matches that can get damp and stop working. This, although it takes a little bit more effort to get a fire going, it is extremely reliable. So the only other knife that I thought came close to competing with this for the outdoor user is the Victorinox Alox Farmer X. So I'm a big fan of the Alox range. The reason I stayed with the Huntsman as my outdoor recommendation is because you get a few extra tools like the corkscrew, which isn't essential but actually becomes more useful when you have this Tinder in there. You get the toothpick, which again is not very useful, but I think with the ferro rod suddenly becomes super useful. And then you get the tweezers, which you don't get with the Alox, which again I think are useful. And you also get the extra small blade. So all in all, that really suggests this beats the Alox in my view. In addition to that, it's about half the price. And if you're into different color options, the Huntsman, because it's obviously one of the most popular knives that Victorinox do, comes in many other colors. So if you don't like red, you can have blue or yellow or green, black or white. If you like camo, there's 3 camo options, believe it or not. If you like the translucent colors, there's 3 versions of that as well. And there's also one with wooden scales. So you're spoiled for choice when it comes for color. The price is really good. The functionality is spot on for outdoor. The weight is about right, and the size, and you have the ability to put in the Tinder and the ferro rod. It is a brilliant knife for outdoors. Well, I hope that review has been useful. If you are interested in more like this, then there is a link at the end of this video to the everyday carry choice Victorinox knife, which is the Victorinox Compact. Feel free to hang on for that. Consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this. And as always, thank you for watching.